going on, everybody? Josh Engleman for Awesemo.com, and I am back for my FanDuel single game breakdown for Monday Night Football's Atlanta Falcons and Green Bay Packers. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all of our other content goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman so you can get updates to this sim as we get closer to lock. And finally, let me know in the comments section, who are your favorite options at MVP and at the flex spot? Now we got to hit on some high level stuff first, so we'll start here. In my sims, the average optimal score, 113.5. The median salary used, 59,000. Now that's a little bit higher than normal. Now there's enough value on this slate that it makes it easier to consolidate upward. Packers averaged 2.8 roster spots of the 5. Falcons just 2.2. And that should make some sense. The Green Bay Packers are 7-point favorites with a 57-point total entering this game. That is crazy. We should expect a ton of offense in this one. It should be really fun to watch. It should be really fun to play. So I say we dive in. Here are the MVPs. I would say there are basically 3 tiers of potential MVP plays for today. The top tier is 2 guys, Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones. Rodgers enters this contest 28% chance of being the optimal MVP, Aaron Jones 25%. So we're talking north of 50% of the time, one of Rodgers or Jones is the MVP. You can take a small step down, 16% of the time it would be Matt Ryan. So you're loading up most of your MVP exposure to one of those 3 guys. After that, everybody else is kind of the same. Ridley, Davante Adams if he plays, which I'm assuming he does, Julio Jones. Those are really the only 3 long shot type flyers I think are viable in this spot. Ridley, Adams, and Jones, 6 to 7% of the time. You can get there, but more often than not, the winning MVP will be Rodgers, Jones, or Ryan. I prefer Rodgers and Jones. I assume everybody else will as well. So if you can find a little bit of value, a little bit of underrepresentation in public ownership on Ryan, Ridley, Adams, or Jones, they would be the types of guys that I would want to go to in a larger field GPP. Now, as we move to the flex spot, I think it gets really tricky. There are so many options, and the likelihood of any one individual being fantastic in football makes it so that this gets really flat in the middle section. Rodgers, Jones, and Ryan clearly outpacing everyone else on the slate. Rodgers, 45% of the time in the optimal flex spot. Matt Ryan, 41%. Aaron Jones, 38%. These guys are outpacing everybody else. Then we take a step down. Ridley, Adams, Jones, Gurley, Valdez-Scantling, Crosby, and Koo. All between 25 and 29% likelihood of being in the flex spot. That is so difficult to parse through, and that is why our projected ownership is the most important feature we have at Awesemo.com. Knowing where you expect the public to be should allow you to dictate your decisions on guys that you're relatively equal on. If Calvin Ridley picks up 40% ownership and Davante Adams plays and picks up 15%, well, then you should just play more Davante Adams. Same story. If Mason Crosby gets a lot of ownership and Koo doesn't, then just play Koo. All of these guys look super duper similar relative to their salary tier, so just play the ownership game. I'll say this much. I'll definitely ignore Russell Gage, but we'll save that for the fades. As I mentioned, Crosby and Koo, man, Crosby and Koo. I almost said Crosby and Crew, which wouldn't have been a person. Not important. 9K for Crosby, 8,500 for Koo. Those are the guys that I like at the bottom of the sort of mid tier. That's where I would like to stop with the kickers. There is a little bit of value, however, if you go further down. Jamal Williams at 7,500 shows up in the optimal flex spot 17% of the time. I'd be willing to look there. Robert Tonyan is 7K. He shows up in the optimal flex spot 14% of the time. So rotating through one of those 2 guys should give you a relatively unique build. Or you drop all the way down, $5,000. I've only have him projected for 4.6 fantasy points. Darius Shepard should be the 3rd wide receiver for the Packers, and if Davante Adams ends up being out, He's probably second. We have no Allen Lazard today. Shepard at 5K shows up in the optimal 12% of the time. That's a pretty sizable amount of exposure. If he doesn't pick up a ton of love in public ownership, Shepard is the guy that I want to go to if I'm trying to save salary. All right, again, I don't have public ownership yet, so it's hard to fully talk about fades, especially at the MVP spot. You kind of need to pay attention to it. I assume you're just going to be locked up in Rodgers, Jones, and Ryan. If any one of those three guys, anyone else from those three guys picks up a ton of ownership, just avoid those guys. There's no reason that anybody south of Matt Ryan in salary should be anywhere north of 7% ownership. Now, at the flex spot, again, it gets really tricky. We're at a point where I think you really need to just fully avoid very high ownership outside of Rodgers, Jones, and Ryan. $9,500 Russell Gage is definitely a guy I don't want to go to. He only showed up in the optimal flex spot 13% of the time. Everybody above him is close to double that number. A few guys below him are the same or higher. So Gage just falls into no man's land. I don't want him. I don't want Zacchaeus at 7,500. That is significantly too expensive. Not really all that interested in Brian Hill at 7K unless he's picking up no ownership. Hayden Hurst at 8K is fine. I know that he will be involved. I think that there are better options. If I were going to go to Hurst, unless he had very minimal ownership, I would rather spend a little bit more money and go to Koo or Crosby. Alrighty, folks, that will do it. That is the FanDuel single game breakdown for tonight's Monday Night Football game between the Falcons and the Packers. One last call. Please hit the thumbs up. It helps me out a ton. I love to see that number climb. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. We have so much content every single day. You don't want to miss it. We're cranking it out nonstop. Honestly, there are days where it feels like we have 15 shows. Watch them all. I wouldn't blame you. I'm on some of them. It's even better. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. I will have updates to these sims for tonight's game as we get closer to lock. Check out my Twitter feed somewhere in that 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. range where I'll be able to refresh this information. Or if we're still waiting on Devontae Adams news, I'll try to get an extra sim out if he ends up out because I am projecting him in right now. There's a DraftKings version of this video here or here or here. There's definitely a place where you can click and find a DK video. So if you're playing on both sites, go check it out. Good luck tonight. I'll be back with another set of these videos for Thursday Night Football.